My life was an endless cycle of a routine I'm not even sure when I started. Every day I woke up, took the 5:30 bus across the city, sat in my boring cubicle as a member of the capitalistic machine, took the 5:30 bus home, and went to sleep just so I could do it again. Despite its mind-dumbing dullness, there was something I was rather fond of in this boring life. That was, I suppose, until him. It was a normal work day. It was Susan's birthday, so the boss threw a little after-work party that I barely escaped from. Why would I want to stay in that torture any longer than I had to? And that meant that I was late to catch my bus home. As I watched the advertisements plastered to the city bus fade off, I slumped down on the bench. There was a little plastic covering, which was a little lucky because the sky looked like it may begin to spit down upon the measly ants of the earth at any moment. It was just as I was settling down for the half-an-hour wait when the little droplets began to tap on the roof. Only then did I notice the stranger standing on the corner. He was walking at a steady pace towards me, and my heart was caught in between hoping that he would pass on by and that he would sit next to me. He had a mysterious beauty, almost like a raven or a crow who you would watch perch on a high branch. You wish that you could fly alongside them, your wings gently brushing against each other as you soar through the night black sky. I couldn't quite see his face yet, he was still too far away, but even from this distance I could feel the piercing gaze of his eyes. My stomach rolled up into twists as he slowed down to a stop in front of me. It was now that I could really tell how tall he was, and how skinny. He seemed to be suspended on a thin frame, his bones fragile like sticks. My face went cold as I watched his mouth open to reveal a sharp smile. My breath caught as he began to speak.
Hello.
His voice was slippery. It wound its way into my ears and filled the empty portions of my brain to a pleasant peace. It was difficult not to get lost in the sound, and I longed to spend forever in that state of bliss. It was after a few moments that I realized he was waiting for me to respond. I was able to croak out a "hi" as I became suddenly aware of how much my own voice lacked in comparison.
Would you mind if I sat with you?
No, of course not. My brain began to go haywire as I scooted over to make room.
It appears that I've missed my bus.
He sat down in a smooth, unnatural motion.
I was hoping to catch the 5 o'clock, but there was a bit of a holdup.
I wanted the 5:30. Why in the world did I say that?
Ah, I see. Well, I suppose there's nothing to do but wait for the next one,
Yeah, I guess so. The stranger was so close to me now, I could barely keep my eyes off him. His face was sharp, each edge finely sculpted and full of secrets. His thin lips barely held back the charming smile I'd seen before. He looked young, his skin soft and clear, and yet I could almost count the years of his life like tree rings in those eyes. And oh, those eyes! There was knowledge behind them, as if they had seen the whole world 10 times over, were just jumping with excitement to tell me about what they had learned. Clear and poignant, I watched them meet mine.
You know, I've never seen you here before.
I could say the same thing about you.
Oh, I'm not from here. I come from a place farther away.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There was more to that statement. His mouth pursed, as if it wanted to tell me more about this faraway place that could bring forth such a beautiful stranger, but was held back. I almost wanted to ask, but who was I to ask questions of this man? I felt so out of place next to him, even if he was the otherworldly being.
May I tell you something?
He asked, his voice breaking the silence I had barely noticed above my own thoughts. Of course, I replied without thinking. There was something about this stranger. His presence pulled me in and twisted me up till I could hardly think of anything other than the words forming on his teeth.
I've seen the world 1,000,000 times.
He began, his voice showing apprehension for the first time. He chose now to break eye contact, and I was left to watch his eyes gaze at the empty street.
I've talked to hundreds of different people. Kind old women, mean young men. I've met many and shared many secrets, and yet, there's one I've never told anyone.
He paused. I couldn't stop my brain from spiraling with guesses.
But there's something about you, stranger.
He turned back to me, his eyes more intoxicatingly close than before.
Something, and I think it's time I've told someone.
You can tell me anything. What? When was the last person I told that? What was it about this man? He chuckled softly.
Be careful what you invite in.
He paused for a moment, the thoughts culminating in his head. I began to get worried he changed his mind.
It was a long time ago. I was much younger than I am now. It all happened in a moment.
He got quiet for a moment. Then he opened his mouth and told me the most heart-wrenching truth I've ever heard. The moment he said it, I felt my soul cry out. I wanted to wrap him in a hug, to hold him tight as if I could squeeze out all the hurt I could see behind those crystal clear eyes. It killed my soul to know that he had held this secret in so long. I wanted to tell him that he wasn't alone against the world. I wanted to tell him that I would stand beside him, that I would help him fight through the struggle. I wanted to tell him that he wouldn't be alone ever again as long as I was there. But I didn't say anything. Instead, we sat, and the secret hung in the air, hot and heavy.
But we're strangers, you and I.
He took a deep breath, and I could practically hear what he was about to say.
Why?
I trust you. The words came out of my mouth before I thought about them. After a second of thinking, though, I knew. I trust you. You're telling the truth. He smiled. It was a dangerous smile.
You don't know a thing about me. I could have tricked you. I could be lying right to your face, handsome stranger.
Then he said them. 6 short, simple words who when apart mean nothing, but together are incredible. 6 short words from a stranger who had enraptured me at the bus stop. 6 short words that would change my life forever.
So, would you believe me anyway?